Good evening, I'm Anna Azalian and welcome to Newswatch, your source for all news impacting southeastern Ohio. In his third primetime address during the pandemic, Governor Mike DeWine told Ohioans when existing health orders will end. DeWine said in yesterday's address, if Ohioans continue to wear masks and get vaccines, rates of COVID-19 will continue to go down. This means the orders will be lifted when there are no more than 5,950 cases over a 2-week period.
When Ohio gets down to 50 cases per 100,000 people for 2 weeks, all health orders in the state will come off.
Ohio's population of 11.9 million people had 179 cases per 100,000 people yesterday. And the decision on whether journalism professor Yusuf Kalyango will keep his job is back in the hands of a faculty committee. This comes after Monday night's Board of Trustees meeting. They spent more than 4 hours in closed session discussing Kalyango's fate and ordered the committee to reconsider its recommendation and report back in 3 weeks. The committee decided in December the investigations into 2 sexual harassment claims against Kalyango were flawed. They recommended he keep his job. The Board of Trustees listed several concerns with the reasons behind the recommendation. They said the committee used the wrong standard of evidence in its review. The committee said in its recommendation it wasn't convinced by clear and convincing evidence that Kalyango had sexually harassed 2 female students. But the standard for evaluating evidence in a sexual misconduct investigation is preponderance of the evidence. This is a much easier standard to meet. The board also raised several other objections to the committee's report. It has the final say on whether Kalyango keeps his job, and the committee's recommendation to the board was the final step in a multi-year process to investigate sexual harassment claims and determine discipline for Kalyango. The long process is one of the things students are questioning.
Students come into OU, and as soon as you're at orientation, you're taught about consent, that there's a zero tolerance policy, and that it's a system in your favor as a survivor, that it seems like clear cut, you do it, you're out. Why is the process so long and has extra steps when it comes to faculty?
An investigator for the University Office of Equity and Civil Rights Compliance investigated the sexual harassment claims against Kalyango. He did find Kalyango did sexually harass the 2 students, and this is where it gets a little complicated. 2 faculty ethics committees, the provost and the president, all recommended Kalyango lose tenure and his job. This triggered a whole separate process for revoking tenure. This is where that faculty committee comes in. It met in December and recommended the opposite. This left the board with conflicting recommendations on Kalyango's fate. For more details on this process and what's next, go to our website, woub.org. Now let's take a look at your local weather with Nicholas Snyder.
Much of the same pleasant weather we've been seeing over the past couple of days and even this past week is continuing to impact the forecast area right now. 44 is the temperature. It's a bit chilly out there, all due to a little bit of a dip in the jet stream. We'll get to that in just a second. Clouds in the morning, clearing in the afternoon. That is the wrong graphic. I'm sorry about that. Humidity is 35%. Pressure is at 30.05 inches and falling. Winds are out of the northwest at 10 miles an hour. This is the correct graphic. Across the area, temperatures are generally in the upper 30s and lower 40s, 39 in Columbus, 37 in New Lexington, 41 in Athens, warm spots 45 in Ironton and Ripley, all under mainly clear to partly cloudy skies. Highlights over the next couple of days: a chilly weekend will remain in store with highs in the 40s. The calm weather will remain intact, but a midweek warm-up could possibly be in store, and we'll talk all about that coming up in my full forecast in just a couple of minutes, Anna.
Thanks, Nicholas. A Republican state lawmaker under indictment in a federal corruption case joins other GOP critics of Ohio's coronavirus prevention efforts. Representative Larry Householder introduced a pair of bills that would limit both state and local health departments from issuing emergency orders. Meanwhile, the investigation continues on his alleged role in a $61 million bribery scheme related to a nuclear bailout law he championed. And Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear's legal team has submitted a bill seeking nearly $18,000 in reimbursement from people who unsuccessfully pushed for the Democrats' impeachment. In Kentucky, unsuccessful petitioners are required to pay the legal fees incurred by the officer the petition was filed against. They must also pay back panel members and their legal counsel for their time. The Office of Republican Attorney General Daniel Cameron said that while it respects the committee's recommendations to recover costs, it would not seek reimbursement. Bashir had impeachment proceedings brought against him for his actions to slow the spread of the coronavirus. And coming up, possible relief for Kentuckians who rely on insulin, and why health officials are pushing back against states planning to fully reopen. These stories and more when Newswatch returns.
All you have to do is write one true sentence. Write the truest sentence that you know.
We've been thinking about Hemingway for literally decades. You have someone who is often considered the greatest American novelist and has an outsized life.
It's hard to think of a subject that's more iconic than Ernest Hemingway.
Within a few sentences of reading a Hemingway story, you were not in any confusion as to who had written it.
Hemingway can be read as he wanted it to be by ordinary folks, and yet beneath it is as deep an exploration of art and the human experiences that is just miraculous to me.
He was always questing. The perfect line had not happened yet. It was always a struggle, trying to get it right, and you never will.
He's this big game hunter. He's a deep sea fisherman. He's this lover. He's a man's man. And all of that was true, but it wasn't completely true.
The way into understanding him is through his relationships with the women in his life. His mother, his sisters, and then the 4 women who he married in succession over the next 40 years of his life.
Ernest and I, really, are afraid of each other, each one knowing that the other is the most violent person either one knows.
In working on the film and delving more deeply into his demons and his struggles, how much his work mattered to him, I came to have a much deeper appreciation for the real Ernest Hemingway.
Finding out more about him was revelatory and shocking, and at some point, you just kind of had to check everything you thought you believed and begin again. We were just not prepared for how complex the story was going to be.
The Kentucky Senate passed a bill aimed at delivering financial relief for many Kentuckians. It would cap out-of-pocket costs for insulin. State senators unanimously approved the bill today, prompting its return to the House, where the bill's changes will be considered. Out-of-pocket costs would be capped at $35 per prescription for a 30-day insulin supply if the measure becomes law. The cap would apply to state-regulated, comprehensive, and private health insurance plans, as well as the Kentucky Employee Health Plan. However, it would not apply to Medicare, Medicaid, or self-funded health plans. And West Virginia is joining the list of states giving the green light to businesses to fully reopen. But Governor Jim Justice made it clear today mask and social distancing rules are not going anywhere. The Texas and Mississippi announced businesses reopening earlier this week, but they both ditched their mask mandates. And as CNN's Nick Watt reports, health officials are pushing back.
The mask mandate in Mississippi is no more. The governor says his people don't need handlers. Many of them agree.
If you don't feel well, don't go out. Or if you don't feel well and you have to go out, wear a mask.
But mask mandates reduce COVID-19 case counts and deaths, according to more data published today by the CDC.
Wear a mask now so we can get to a place where you don't have to.
More than 65,000 new COVID cases confirmed across this country yesterday. Way too high for us to be throwing away masks, throwing open doors, say the feds. So, where is that place when rollbacks will be okay?
I would say less than 10,000 and maybe even considerably less than that.
Case counts were heading there, but plateaued about 10 days ago. Could be fatigue, complacency, and/or those more contagious variants kicking in.
Also, I would like to see a substantial proportion of the population vaccinated.
Finished. And this is the mantra.
Climb into whatever lifeboat you can get. I mean, we shouldn't, whatever vaccine you can get.
But Detroit just declined a shipment of Johnson & Johnson's single-shot vaccine.
Moderna and Pfizer are the best. And I am going to do everything I can to make sure the residents of the city of Detroit get the best.
We've been in constant dialogue with Mayor Duggan, who said, in fact, that was not what he said.
Well, it is what he said. Maybe he misspoke. Either way, it's wrong. All 3 vaccines are
extraordinarily effective in preventing severe disease, and we don't compare one to the other. The only way that you can effectively do that is by having head-to-head comparisons in a clinical trial, which was not done.
1, 2, 3. More than 10% of American adults are now fully vaccinated, but still no CDC guidance on how they should behave.
These are complex issues and the science is rapidly evolving. We are making sure and taking the time to get this right, and we will be releasing this guidance soon.
Dr. Fauci said Wednesday the U.S. will be able to pull back on coronavirus restrictions, but not until the number of daily new infections falls to about 10,000. And after the break, why Republicans and Democrats are clashing over the latest COVID relief package. That story's still ahead.
And weather-wise, we had a lot of pleasant weather this week, but a change is in store with a warm-up and possible rain. We'll talk all about that coming up in my full forecast, but first a look at stocks of local interest.
Have you recently felt anxious, sad, traumatized, or grief? You are not alone.
You have an opportunity to transform your life.
At Amen Clinics, we use the analogy of dragons from the past, breathing fire on your brain. But you can tame your dragons to have the life you want, and we'll be with you every step of the way.
Now, it's even easier to stay connected with WOUB Public Media. Receive the latest news, watch your favorite programs live or on demand, and listen to podcasts or live radio everywhere you go using the WOUB Public Media app. And you'll get to carry me, WOUB radio announcer Robin Barnes, around with you all day. The app is available to download free on iOS and Android. Just search for WOUB.
Celebrate country music legend Dolly Parton for her 50 years as a member of the Grand Ole Opry. Watch as she delivers some of her biggest hits on one of the most iconic stages in the world.
Jolene, 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 Jolene.
Watch Dolly Parton and Friends, 50 years at the Opry.
One part of me wants to be 12 again.
Me and Ann, we're kindred spirits.
And the other part, I think he's in love with you.
May I carry your books? Does this look like a child trying to be sensible?
I don't even know what the other part wants. Secretly, you love him too. Don't say that.
And Shirley, you're the first interesting person I've met in Avonlea.
I don't care to be 13.
Oh?
It's much more complicated than even I imagined.
Welcome back. Well, that sunshine stayed over the forecast area for much of the day and much of the week over this past week. We can see it here on the visible satellite. Not a cloud in sight. Closest clouds are over Kentucky, Indiana, and Illinois. So what a beautiful day, as we saw for the last couple of days, albeit a bit chilly due to this dipping in the jet stream right in here. We're right on the edge of that cold weather, and that's going to continue to impact us throughout much of the weekend and into the night tonight. Here's our surface map. High pressure has been dominating. That's why we've been so nice over the past couple days and into the coming weeks. A little bit of disturbance right here and right here, stirring up a little bit of clouds over the east coast and over southern Canada, but nothing to worry about as far as southeastern Ohio, northeastern Kentucky, and northern West Virginia tonight. Mostly clear skies tonight will actually lead to very cold overnight temps. That outgoing long wave radiation, we call it in the weather community, is going to lead to much cooler temps tonight, and we may be dealing with some frost early tomorrow morning with lows in the upper 20s and lower 30s. You could see here in the lows tonight, again, upper 20s and lower 30s throughout much of the forecast area. 22 tonight in Athens. Clear in the evening, partly cloudy late at night. We may get some early morning clouds tomorrow morning as well. Winds will be out of the northwest at 0 to 5 miles an hour. Across the area, temperatures, again, generally in the lower and middle 20s. 23 in Columbus, 20 in Newark, 23 in New Lexington, 23 in Ripley, 26 is the warm spot in Ironton. Mainly clear to partly cloudy skies throughout the area all throughout the night. High pressure continues to dominate as we go throughout tomorrow. So again, more clear skies and more beautiful conditions going into tomorrow. 44 will be the high. Again, a little bit chilly as we're dealing with a little bit of a dip in the jet stream. Clouds in the morning. We get clearing later on in the afternoon. Winds out of the northwest at 5 to 10 miles an hour. Across the area, again, temperatures generally in the lower and middle 40s, 46 the warm spot in Ironton. Mainly clear to partly cloudy skies. Now, here are the headlines for the coming week, but first we'll take a look at the service map for Sunday. High pressure continues to dominate and those cooler temperatures as well. But going into next week, calm pattern is going to cease. We're actually going to see a warm-up come in for later on. A split in the jet stream is going to converge over California beginning next week, and we see that here. That's what's going to cause a more active pattern and us to warm up later on in the week. We could see here on the 7-day temperature averages, we warm you all the way up to 14 to 16 degrees above average for next week. Highs will be close in the 70s, and here's that 10-day air masses. We're right on the edge of that cold air. There's our warm-up coming for Tuesday and Friday before we're cooling you back down, unfortunately, again next weekend. And here's that extended forecast. Again, close to 70 by Wednesday, high of 66. Rain chances increase as we go throughout the end of next week with highs in the upper 60s and then cooling you back again toward the weekend. Anna?
Thanks, Nicholas. Americans wondering when to expect what could be a final round of COVID relief need to look just one place this weekend: the U.S. Senate. Democrats hope to pass a $1.9 trillion bill, but before they vote on that, they face round after round of Republican-led challenges. Emily Schmidt is in Washington with more about what's on the Vote-A-Rama line.
The Senate's going to take a lot of votes, but we are going to power through and finish this bill.
Democrats determined to try to deliver what could be the final COVID relief stimulus package, with checks for millions of Americans, extended unemployment benefits, billions to bolster vaccine distribution, and more. Republicans, without the votes to win, hoping to reframe the debate.
This isn't a pandemic rescue package. It's a parade of left-wing pet projects they're ramming through during a pandemic.
Senate rules allow some ways to slow the process.
Section 2, Table of Contents.
Like a word-for-word reading by the clerks of the 628-page bill that took up much of Thursday and stretched into Friday. Now, a long series of amendment votes Republicans can use to make Democrats go on the record about individual issues.
Stay hydrated, but this is a debate worth having.
Bring it on. We're ready.
The First Amendment focused on raising the federal minimum wage to $15 per hour. It failed, so won't be in the final bill. It takes 51 votes to pass in a Senate split 50-50, which means each of the more than 100 proposed amendments tests party unity.
The American people are counting on us, and our nation depends on it.
The bill senators pass has to go back to the House, then to President Biden, before any family can see benefits. In Washington, I'm Emily Schmidt reporting.
A stalemate over jobless benefits has stalled action on the Senate floor for hours. Technically, a vote on minimum wage is still open, even though every Republican and 8 senators in the Democratic conference voted against, thus tanking the measure. And Pope Francis has become the first ever pope to set foot in Iraq. Francis said it was his duty to come to the martyred land, visiting the Church of Our Lady of Salvation in Baghdad. The church itself was the site of a massacre of 58 Christians in 2010. The Pope also met with the President, the Prime Minister, and government officials, telling them to work together for a peaceful coexistence. On Saturday, the Pope will travel to Najaf for an important private meeting with the Grand Ayatollah Ali al-Sistani, the head of Shia Muslims.
Good evening, I'm Jack Demler. It was a busy week in sports for the Ohio Bobcats, starting with the Ohio volleyball team playing host to Ball State this weekend. See how things played out in the Convo and more when Newswatch returns. But first, stay tuned to WOUB as here's what's coming up on your local television station.
All you have to do is write one true sentence. Write the truest sentence that you know.
We've been thinking about Hemingway for literally decades. You have someone who is often considered the greatest American novelist and has an outsized life.
It's hard to think of a subject that's more iconic than Ernest Hemingway.
Within a few sentences of reading a Hemingway story, you were not in any confusion as to who had written it.
Hemingway can be read as he wanted it to be by ordinary folks, and yet beneath it is as deep an exploration of art and the human experiences that is just miraculous to me.
He was always questing. The perfect line had not happened yet. It was always a struggle, trying to get it right, and you never will.
He's this big game hunter. He's a deep-sea fisherman. He's this lover. He's a man's man. And all of that was true, but it wasn't completely true.
The way into understanding him is through his relationships with the women in his life. His mother, his sisters, and then the 4 women who he married in succession over the next 40 years of his life.
Ernest and I, really, are afraid of each other, each one knowing that the other is the most violent person either one knows.
In working on the film and delving more deeply into his demons and his struggles, how much his work mattered to him, I came to have a much deeper appreciation for the real Ernest Hemingway.
Finding out more about him was revelatory and shocking, and at some point, you just kind of had to check everything you thought you believed and begin again. We were just not prepared for how complex the story was going to be.
Welcome back to Newswatch. I'm Jack Demler. The Ohio women's volleyball team had themselves a busy weekend as they welcomed MAC foe, the Ball State Cardinals, to the Convocation Center. The two teams first matched up on Thursday. Bobcats started the match off hot as Lauren Park delivered a huge spike that was too hot to handle. Bobcats took the first set 27-25. Second set, and the Bobcats would still be just as hot as Park delivered another kill off a Vera Giacomosi set. Bobcats lead the first 2 sets, but the Ball State Cardinals wouldn't go down without a fight. Natalie Matcham would deliver this spike that Ohio is just unable to return. The match is tied up at 2 sets apiece. Bobcats had a huge block on Kia Holder's spike attempt, but Mitchum was there to deliver another kill to secure the Cardinals' victory, 3-2.
I give credit to Ball State. They were outstanding on offense tonight. They had 4 sets. They hit 375 or higher. And I would really just say they did such a great job as hitters getting their feet to the ball, and to have 155 swings and only have 5 unforced errors is tremendous. And so I give them a great deal of credit. We just had more errors, and that's something that we have to do a better job getting our feet to the ball, knowing when we have a chance to take a great swing, knowing when we don't. But it's good MAC volleyball. Told the team in the locker room that that's the type of match that MAC volleyball is supposed to be about.
The Bobcats seemed to clean up their mistakes as they had a clean 3-set sweep against the Cardinals on Friday. Ohio won the first set 25-20, won the second set 25-15, and secured the sweep by winning the third set 26-24. Tia Jimerson led the way for the Bobcats with 12 kills. And what was supposed to be Ohio men's basketball final regular season game has been canceled. The Bobcats game against Bowling Green was scheduled for tonight but has been canceled due to COVID-19 concerns. This means the Bobcats will have to ready up for the Mid-American Conference Tournament right now. The Bobcats are currently the 5th seeded team in the MAC and are projected to play the Akron Zips in the first round. Last time the Bobcats matched up with the Zips, Ohio came away with a 90-73 victory. The tournament is scheduled to begin on March 11th. And staying with basketball, the Ohio women's basketball team will be back in the Convo tomorrow for basketball's Battle of the Bricks, as they will host the Miami Redhawks for the final home game before heading to Cleveland for the Mid-American Conference Tournament. Ohio is just coming off a loss on the road to the Akron Zips after not playing a game since February 13th. CC Hooks led the way for the Bobcats by posting a double-double of 33 points and 10 rebounds. Maddie Mace was the next closest Bobcat scorer with 11 points and 7 rebounds. Ohio is currently the 3rd seed in the Mid-American Conference standings, while Akron finds themselves just outside the tournament at the 11th seed. Tip-off against Miami is set for 1 o'clock. And sticking with the Battle of the Bricks, we go to football in the football stadium. The Ohio women's soccer team played host to the Miami Redhawks in Peden for soccer's Battle of the Bricks. The Bobcats had a couple key chances at the goal, as here's Maddie Maeve Malo looking inside, but it hits off the post. The open shot, but it gets snatched up by Miami's keeper, Izzy Vaxey. The Redhawks were able to find the back of the net as Miami escapes Ohio with a 1-0 victory. I'm Jack Demler, and that's it for sports. Back to you, Anna.
Thanks, Jack. And on the topic of sports, the NFL is welcoming its first ever black female official. The league announced Maya Chaka will join its roster of game officials for the 2021 season. Chaka has been with the league's officiating development program for 7 years. The NFL's executive vice president called her a trailblazer who has put in years of hard work, dedication, and perseverance. In a statement, Chaka said, "I am honored to be selected as an NFL official, but this moment is bigger than a personal accomplishment. It's an accomplishment for all women, my community, and my culture." Now let's take one last look at your weather with Nicholas.
Thanks, Anna. 44 will be the high tomorrow. More of that pleasant, chilly weather is going to continue across the area. Clouds in the morning, clearing in the afternoon. As we go throughout the day, winds will be out of the northwest at 5 to 10 miles an hour. Across the area, temperatures generally the lower and middle 40s. 42 in Columbus, 46 the warm spot in Ironton, 43 in Jackson and in Chillicothe, 40 in New Lexington, 40 as well in Newark and in Cambridge, and in New Martinsville, 44 in Marietta, and 42 in Ripley, all under mainly clear to partly cloudy skies. Extended forecast, we warm you back up into the 60s for next week. 62 on Wednesday, 66 on Wednesday. Chance of thunderstorms, believe it or not, on Thursday, with highs nearing 70 at 68. Finally cooling you back down for Friday. Highs will be about 14 to 16 degrees above average by the time we get to the end of next week. So make sure you get out there and enjoy that beautiful spring-like weather we'll be seeing next week, Anna.
Thanks, Nicholas. And that does it for our broadcast this evening. Thanks for watching. I'm Anna Azalian. Stay tuned for PBS NewsHour coming up next. And remember, you can find the latest news anytime at woub.org. You can also find the latest news on social media. Our Twitter is at WOUB News. Facebook, you can find us at WOUB Public Media. And we also have an app. If you search WOUB Public Media in the App Store, you'll find our app too, where you can get the latest news anytime on your phone. You can also find a daily forecast and our podcast, The Outlet, on Twitter at Outlet OUTLET_WOUB. Have a great night. You doing good? Thanks.